Hi everybody, and today will be the first part from series of mini-films. You often wrote in the comments that you want to see my films in English version. And now, you're looking it, I made it for you. For those who don't know who is Agafia Lykova, I will briefly tell her history of life. Agafia Lykova is a Russian old believer, part of the Lykov family who has lived alone in the wild Taiga for most of her life. The Lykov family was discovered by accident from a helicopter, and since then, people showed great interest for Lykov family. Because the Lykov family lived in the wild taiga, where there are no other people, for them any disease, like a cold, could be fatal, because their immunity is not adapted to worldly diseases. That is why many members of the family died. Later, all members of her family died and she was alone. At the moment she is 74 years old. Periodically, there are some assistants who also move to her residence, but usually they don't last very long, because appear some different disputes, mostly about religion. And now let's go directly to our history of the trip. Let's start from our departure by train from Moscow in mid-August. The road was very long. We were riding the train about 3 days. Loaded all our huge things, we left Moscow. During these days we had to pass a lot of large cities, such as Kazan, Yekaterinburg, Tyumen, Omsk and Novosibirsk. It was very interesting to see how the scenery outside the window changed. If the western part of Russia was dominated by flat landscapes, then approaching closer to Yekaterinburg, there were mountains, if they can be called so. Our ultimate destination was Novokuznetsk.
Ура! Мы в Новокузнецке. Как дела?
Все хорошо. В
Нормально?
славном городе Новокузнецке. Идем в главную достопримечательность.
KFC.
We arrived in Novokuznetsk at 4 am, and we had to wait for certain people who were going from Abakan to go with them already in a small town called Tashtagol, where the helipad from which we will fly to Agafia. We had so many things that we had to order a bus with a trailer. From Novokuznetsk to Tashtagol we drove about 2.5 hours. Just managed to get a little sleep in the van. In Tashtagol we had a free day, as we were not in time to fly in the same day. And we took the opportunity to walk around a pretty nice city and bathed in the river Kondoma. Swimming was the best solution after 3 days in train. We spent the night in the building of the heliport, so we don't need to carry our heavy backpacks one more time. The night before we were told that we were going to be sent first, so we had a fairly early rise to gather and load all the things in the helicopter. Weather in the morning we were pleased with the clear sky and loaded the first batch of things and food in the barrow. Began to carry other things to the helicopter. Our trip on Mi-8 will be maybe an hour. By sending the latest messages in social networks, our helicopter begins to taxi to the runway. When I read before the trip about Agafia Lykova, I did not believe that around her the nearest village is 250 kilometers. But when the helicopter went up and we flew towards the Lykov residence, I believed in those words. Indeed, almost as soon as we flew away from Tashtagol, lost any roads and hints of civilization, and we were surrounded only by wild and untouched forests. To fly we had at the confluence of two rivers, Yeronat and the upper Abakan. It is there the Lykov residence on the hillside. moving away from Tashtagol and approaching nearer to our endpoint, the Lykov residence, the mountains became more taller and more beautiful. And let's spend another minute on the story about Agafia Lykova, namely about her religious position. Agafia Lykova is from a family of old believers, so for an ordinary person at first, it is quite unusual to be and live nearby. For example, take the water that it uses for its needs. She periodically holy water for herself. The water she takes from the river Yernat, and if she sees how the other person will take the water for themselves upstream, then the place from which she takes water, after such an act she will go much higher, since now the water will need to purify. She devotes a lot of time to prayers and adheres to asceticism. If the simple words to describe what for her asceticism, you can say, the worse to her, the better for her. She sleeps in the summer in a small shed in the garden and do not wash. I'm sure many will ask, does she smell? And the answer will be unexpected. No, despite the fact that she doesn't wash. She always wears the same clothes. Only on holidays allowed to wear a colorful handkerchief instead of the usual. Next, you will see our landing on the rocky shore of Yerinat, unloading our camp preparation, and will be a small tour of her possessions. And in the future series I will show how we help her around the house and will be directly video with her participation. Gradually flying up to the confluence of the two rivers, the helicopter decreases and fly between the two mountains. After some time, residents seemed from the window of the helicopter and we are preparing for landing. Landing in such wild and prepared place is quite difficult. Let's start with the fact that the place to be able to sit such a large helicopter as the Mi-8 is not easy to find, and secondly, because residence is between the mountains. The pilots have to be doubly careful not to fly too close to the edge of huge cedars.
А там как раз речка.
Ну да.
Ну, отсюда тоже удобно будет.
Ладно,
Ну,
что ты
просто
именно.
там-то сразу можно по 3 груза.
Так какие тут мешки, можно сказать, если
Ну, отсюда неудобно.
нет? Тяжело.
Лучше оттуда, конечно.
Видели, какие места красивые?
Ну, нормально как раз, удобно.
Так, ребят, на фотографии.
Давай, да, вперед. Плюс взял чемодан на Тайгу. Это чей дом?
Николая.
Это ее дом, я так понимаю, да?
Это домик Георгия.
Кого-кого?
Сейчас вот тут это.
Ага. От машины все подвешено.
Вот такой у них будет.
Ну-ка.
Ну это у него.
Можно пройти?
Да конечно, проходи.
Ну, вообще прикольно. Ну, вообще неплохо.
Ну да.
Печка есть. Ну, Россия. Че, пойдемте. Прохладнее. Так, и покажите, где пить там можно, где нет.
И там внизу. Там.
Где вертолет, да?
Ну как только мы спустились, поставили.
Картофан.
Она где живет? Вот. Дом прямо вот это.
Вот это дом.
Все вместе. Ну вот она вот в этой части живет. Там у нее козы, куры, и там дальше еще есть. Все.
Ну типа да. Ага. Расстались. Ну в принципе нормально. Жить сможем.
Снять пока нет, прикольно.